Hello, welcome to the latest episode of Data Unchained. I'm your host, Molly Presley. Before I introduce today's guest, I'll give you just a little bit of a summary about what this podcast is about. As you look back over the last 10, 20, even 30 years, the access patterns of data have changed dramatically with the advent of cloud computing, introduction of a lot of sensor and edge-generated data, and then workforce moving remotely through COVID. A lot of things have changed on how data is being generated, processed, and accessed. Data Unchained digs into both the problems as well as the solutions to help make your data a really accessible global resource. Today's guest, I think a lot of you will be familiar with, is Eric Herzog. Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
Great, Molly. Thank you. And of course, we love talking to Hammerspace, and we have a number of joint customers and joint partners we're working with. So again, thank you for inviting Infinidat.
Oh, you bet. It'll be great to dig into where those synergies lie. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about Eric, kind of what brings you to Infinidat and kind of your career history.
Sure. So I'm almost 70 years old. Yes, I know I
No
look
way.
like I'm 18. Yes,
I was going to guess 32.
And I've done nothing but storage my whole career. I've done everything in the storage space from storage systems, not only at Infinidat, but I was at IBM Storage Division twice. I was at EMC. I've done 7 startups. I've done storage software, and even back in the day, hard drives, which most people don't even know how they work anymore. So I've been in storage forever and a day since the early 1980s.
And you joined Infinidat, about 2 years ago? Is that correct?
Yes, I joined Infinidat at the end of 2021. I most recently spent 6.5 years at IBM for my second stint at IBM, where I was the CMO and the Vice President of Global Storage Channels for the IBM Storage Division. So I came to Infinidat. I knew the CEO. So the CEO, Phil Bullinger, and I actually had worked together at EMC. He had been the general manager of the Isilon team. Now they call it PowerScale, but it used to be Isilon when it was EMC. And I was the Senior Vice President for Product Management, Product Marketing for the VNX, now called PowerStore, and the VMAX, now called PowerMax. So that was and I'd known Phil actually since the mid-1990s. So he picked up the phone, called me and said, hey, you need to come join me at my startup, blah, 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 and worked out great.
So some of the companies you've talked about, Dell, EMC, are probably household names for a lot of folks who listen. Infinidat, certainly, and the big Global 1000 is a household name. But can you tell everyone a little bit about Infinidat for those who may not be familiar?
Sure. Infinidat is a storage systems company. The genealogy of many of the founders is ex-EMC and ex-IBM storage, so coming with a wealth of experience. One of the differences between us and the other storage system vendors is, A, we use off-the-shelf componentry. So our magic fairy dust, if you will, is all about software. It's our InfuzeOS operating system, our NeuroCache, our InfiniSafe. That's what differentiates us. Also, our incredible support and service. We have white glove, which we include for all accounts. And in fact, we have been a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for the last 4 years. We've won the Gartner Peer Insights, which is not Gartner analysts, but literally end users that Gartner vets write reviews of us. And both Gartner themselves and those Peer Insights have pointed out that our support and service is head and shoulders above those of our much larger competitors. We do, as an example, support over 25% of the Fortune 50. So the 50 biggest companies on this planet, even though we're much smaller than several of our competitors, including my former employers, we service that niche. Now, we would also do very well with cloud service providers as well, both big, medium, and small.
So, Eric, you and I bumped into each other at the Flash Memory Summit last year. We were on a CMO panel together and had chatted about it would be fun to do some marketing together. So one, I'm delighted to be doing this podcast together. But you also mentioned we have joint customers. Can you talk a little bit about, from your perspective, when you think about Hammerspace as, a file system that's focused on files and global data, and Infinidat's really being embedded in the business storage, how do the two technologies intersect?
Well, first of all, you provide a global file system, of course, that can be on-prem, edge, cloud, multiple clouds. We provide a fully unified file and block infrastructure, NFS and SMB. We have all the traditional, if you will, data center services around both block and file, so immutable snapshots, compression, replication, etc. We guarantee that technology, whether it be on the file side or the block side. But you allow us to be involved in, for example, heterogeneous deployments. So let's take an example. Customer X is using one of our competitors, and we partner with you. You can do transparent migration in the background on the fly from the older solution from the competitor to our solution and do it seamlessly, manage all the metadata transitions, and make sure that that data gets put in the right place at the right time. When we're doing something like an AI-based workload, which often requires you to do processing a certain place, gathering the data a certain place, communicating that data also in another place. By leveraging our two technologies together, we avoid all that. And we don't have, for example, 4 to 5 levels of tiering on 4 to 5 different levels of box. It may be coming off an InfiniBox or InfiniBox SSA, could be used with us and one other vendor, but your system and how you manage the global file system across multiple entities, locations, and how you handle the metadata makes it completely seamless to the end user.
I love that. And as you think about Hammerspace customers, we have customers, who sometimes built their own hardware. We have different customers with different appetites for risk. And if you think about the Fortune 500, Global 1000 types of customers, their appetite for risk is, I think, zero. They need to keep their business up and running. They need to have very predictable data environments as well as predictable support, and having the complement of our technology to bring this global file system in, but on this bulletproof service and storage environment is a great synergy for us, for customers who are looking to run their enterprise on these joint technologies. So I think it's a great complementary solution for those customers who have already adopted or are looking for a bulletproof storage system to complement this global file system.
Well, absolutely. Our customers are incredibly risk adverse. Even if you think about the cloud service providers, right, they are providing an external business. So if you think about a global Fortune 500, global Fortune 1000, we are the underlying infrastructure for all kinds of workloads, VMware workloads, private cloud workloads, high performance databases, SAP, Oracle, Mongo, Cassandra, you name it. But at the same time, they've got other applications on the top, right? When you look at it from a cloud service provider, if we don't provide the right foundation, they can't bill. Right, so it's a completely different model.
And there's a charge for every minute something's not available as well, right?
Absolutely, and of course, if someone's prepaid, they're going to want a rebate if they're dealing with a larger entity where they do a prepaid transaction from the cloud service provider. So, our focus, they're so risk adverse. We make sure that we put our money where our mouth is, so to speak. So, as an example, we offer 100% availability guarantee. We offer performance guarantees. Now we have a hybrid array and an all-flash array, so the performance absolutely does vary, although we minimize that with our multi-patented technology known as neural cache. But an all-flash array is definitely faster than a hybrid array, and we offer both, depending on your application workload and use case. However, we make sure that we not only give the availability, performance guarantees on both, and we have a number of very large entities that have our all-flash arrays and our hybrid, and they get a performance guarantee of both. We then also offer cyber resilience and recovery guarantees. We guarantee that when they create an immutable snapshot, which means it's non-alterable, non-cancelable, non-deletable, we make sure and we guarantee that in writing, whether it be on the InfiniBox, our hybrid, or our InfiniBox SSA or all-flash. We also guarantee the recovery time, so the RTO, if you will, and we will guarantee on our primary storage, our InfiniBox or InfiniBox SSA, recovery time of 1 minute or less, I kid you not. And on our purpose-built backup appliance, the InfiniGuard, we guarantee recovery times of 20 minutes or less. And that can be very impressive. For example, one of our other partners in the backup world is Veeam and Kasten, whether they do VMware backup or container backup. In either case, we have been doing several public demos where we have recovered a 20 petabyte, yes, I kid you not, 20 petabyte Veeam backup data set in 11 minutes.
Wow.
Now, no one could do that. In fact, Veeam's former CTO who just left, he specifically wrote on his goodbye note where I said, Danny, congratulations. He wrote, we love working with Infinidat, and no one can recover data faster than Infinidat, even ourselves. And he put that up on LinkedIn about 10 days ago. So,
Oh, cool.
those are guarantees for the risk adverse crowd, which is who you sell to as well.
Exactly. So I'm curious, as you think about this idea of certainly expanding to the heterogeneous environments where you have block and file in a single system, that's a great synergy in a data center. It simplifies IT's job, having fewer systems they're managing, fewer vendors, fewer things that they have to understand. But in a global data environment where I think most of your customers probably have mini data centers or data centers and clouds, how do you see the future looking on, will these workloads all be unified? Will you have InfiniBoxes in a lot of different locations? What does the global footprint for Infinidat look like?
Yeah, so when we think of a global footprint, we think both file and block technology. Obviously, partnering with you gives us that global namespace capability. We also see the era of the hybrid cloud. So I've been doing this a long, long time. So when the cloud first came out, everyone's going to go to the cloud. Well, as you've probably seen in the IT press all over the world, there's a trend known as repatriation. And what they've realized is for certain workloads, there's a security exposure if you're only in the cloud. For other workloads that are performance exposure if you're only in the cloud. And for other workloads, they found out you have a legal issue, right? Now, if you're dealing with the biggest cloud providers, the top four, IBM Cloud, Microsoft, of course, Amazon, and Google, maybe you don't have that issue, but many countries have rules. For example, Canada. If data is generated in Canada, it cannot legally be stored beyond the confines of the country of Canada. And they're not the only country that has it. So you have regulatory and compliance issues, you have GDPR. So in fact, we see several customers that we're working on jointly with you that they are not going to have one global namespace. They'll probably have several for these legal reasons. So they'll meet the regulatory compliance. Now, by the way, that could be 10 countries with one file system leveraging your technology and our technology together. But the point is, we see a hybrid cloud world. We see a multi-cloud world. And we see, because of a lot of regulatory and compliance, real impacts on storage, which Hammerspace and Infinidat together can solve those needs by just having multiple global file systems for a giant global Fortune 500 that's got, exabytes of data for sake of argument. They can take care of their Asian customers, their Latin America, their North America, and whatever regulatory and compliance. By working together between Infinidat and Hammerspace, we can make sure we can take care of them in this future world where not only is it multi-distributed, not only is it multi-cloud, by the way, but it also has a lot of compliance and regulatory that we have to take and really need to be cognizant of, and we really need to adhere to that, because our customers need to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that idea of designing for flexibility is huge. Is a term you and I have both used in conversations, and that means different things to different customers. Maybe they need the cloud today and they don't tomorrow. Maybe they need data to train an AI model today but don't want to leave a certain country. Like, there's just a lot of flexibility that organizations desire with their data, but they've had a difficult time accomplishing because of all these discrete different types of storage systems out there. And what I, again, just go back to with this partnership that's great is you can get the best of class on availability, performance, service with Infinidat. And then with Hammerspace, you can design the data movement and the data locality to meet your enterprise needs. And that's a great kind of best of all worlds, using just a couple of really trusted building blocks. But how does that map to the top concerns in Fortune 500s? I know you were talking about what is really on the CIO's agenda, Eric. How does this map to the biggest concerns CIOs are thinking about this year?
Well, if you look actually beyond the CIO and look at the CFO, there are concerns that both Hammerspace and Infinidat working together can meet. So, for example, one is still the global economy. It's up, it's down. Yes, the stock market did great, and inflation in the United States is low, but in other countries, that's not true. And unemployment is higher in other countries than it is here. So you've got to adapt to that. And the number one concern is cost control. And by working with Hammerspace and Infinidat together, we can do that. So, for example, on a non-common customer we have saved that customer, according to them, $105 million in the last 5 years. With another customer, another global Fortune 100, they've saved $62 million. A smaller company, in this case small meaning 20 billion, they've saved 15 million in 2 years. So by working with us together, they can meet that need. So saving costs Second thing is cyber. Cybersecurity is the number 2 concern of the Fortune 500 CEOs in the recent survey. That flows down to the CIO, to the CISO, if they have one, to whoever is managing their security. We are intensely secure in what we do with our InfiniSafe technology, our InfiniSafe cyber detection, which works completely underneath the umbrella of the Hammerspace global file system. And I think the other one you've talked about is flexibility, whether it be on cloud, multi-cloud, off cloud, multiple data centers, having that flexibility of moving data around. And remember, once the policies are set up with your technology, a lot of this data movement is seamless, it's automated, and yes, they can change policies if the world changes. But the point is, between our what we call autonomous automation at the array level, example, one of our large customers is a global telco. They're in the top 5 telcos in the world. For their data, which is hundreds and hundreds of petabytes, that's on us, not counting what they have with other vendors, but just on us, hundreds of petabytes. They used to have 15 admins. They now run that with 4. So between what we do at the array level, the system level, and what you do at the global file system level, traversing clouds, multiple data centers, multiple clouds, edge, all the things you do, we can dramatically automate that and cut costs. I mean, we can even address the IT skills gap, which is all over the news, because we're so easy to use, you're so easy to use, we're automated, you're automated, and we've just basically, as I pointed out with that large customer, 15 admins to 4. That's a huge savings on operational manpower. And they didn't lay people off, by the way. They took that headcount and moved into other projects that are in IT but are not storage based. So that whole IT skills gap we can address as well. So a lot of impact we have on the financial area, clearly impact on flexibility at the system level, at the file system level, at the data movement level, at data management level in an automated fashion. Around security, which is huge. Just to give you a sidebar, security analysts, not storage people like you and I, security analysts estimate the impact of cyber on enterprises this year will be $9.5 trillion. $9.5 trillion in 2024. So anything we can do to
Protecting
help.
against cyber attacks, or is that the actual paying for after the attack has occurred?
That's both the paying for the ransomware attacks. That's exfiltration. In fact, there was just a thing that I saw over the weekend. They were in Europe, and someone stole 3 petabytes of data. Stole it. Now, I don't know what they're going to do with it, and they're not holding it for ransom. They've literally stolen it. So maybe they're going to sell it to the competition. I just got something from my, unfortunately, from my old mortgage company, and luckily I've got the right things with the guys who watch that. But all my data was stolen. In fact, 100,000 mortgage customers, this mortgage company, they sent a note. The data was stolen, which means who knows what they're going to do with it. So they got my social security number. They got everything. They have, of course, what's the title on my home, because that's how homes are held in the United States. Well, guess what? Someone could go file title and I could get kicked out without knowing it. Well, thank God I've got that other security on my personal stuff. But the point is, this is a large mortgage company, and 100,000 different customers had their data stolen. So you've got the theft. You also have malware, okay, which is often tends to be, unfortunately, a government to government thing. But, I hate to say it, it's like that Die Hard movie where they have, quote, a fire sale, and these guys are trying to shut down everything. Power, gas, phone, can't fly, because they're shutting everything down. Now, that's a different story. So there's a lot of different things that impact that 9.5 trillion. Bottom line, it's all very bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a cost center and one they have to plan for, right? So definitely as customers are thinking about their future deployments, they want to make money as a business, and then they need to protect their assets. And we both have really cool solutions at every layer to enable those capabilities. You mentioned the saving $100 million, and you walked through, I think, some of the pieces of how the customer did that through some of the IT efficiencies. Is there anything else Infinidat does on saving money that you want to highlight?
Well, the key thing is what we call consolidation. I mean, obviously on the cyber side, it's to make sure they don't have to pay ransom or, their data doesn't
Absolutely.
get stolen. So that's a different side. But if you look at more of the traditional IT side of the fence, It's our autonomous automation, 15 admins to 4 is huge savings. And then our ability to consolidate. So, for example, we have a customer in the finance sector, they're in the global Fortune 50, and they consolidated 450 floor tiles of storage from someone else to 50 with Infinidat. And in fact, they happen to be running about 20 more petabytes on our 50 floor tiles. So think about the savings on watts, slots, power, floor space, operational manpower. They happen to own their own data center, but I'm sure there's some bill back within it. And God forbid if they'd been in a colo, they'd be being billed for all of those floor tiles. And we went from 450 to 50. So the savings from a traditional IT perspective are huge in our ability to consolidate. Another customer we took from, they had 27 different storage systems from 3 different vendors. They now have 4 of our InfiniBox all flash, 27 to 4. So all those are traditional IT savings. But again, quite honestly, you could even think beyond that. Think environmental. I buy, and they bought that from us, the 4. They've got 27 arrays. As you know, all compute technology, server storage, and networking are filled with chemicals, unfortunately, that happen to be toxic. It's just the reality of IT and from the systems perspective. So they're recycling 27 physical arrays. When they go from their InfiniBox and InfiniBox SSA current generation to, let's say, 2 generations from now, by the way, our average customer keeps their products for about 7 years, which also has an impact financially for them on saving money. But when they switch that over, instead of recycling, and by the way, toxic recycling is very expensive, instead of recycling 4 arrays or 27 arrays, they're only recycling 4. Talk about saving money and being environmentally conscious. Not to mention, in addition to cutting their power and cooling budget, guess what? When you need less power and less cooling, oh, wait, you're more environmentally friendly. At Infinidat, we call it E squared. Environment and economy working together. And that's what our systems can do.
I love that story. I hadn't heard that before. That's great. The $100 million caught my attention because Hammerspace has a customer is a different one than the one you're talking about, where we saved them about $100 million also. And that was more through not requiring specialized, memory technology, specialized networking, specialized things to accomplish their mission, and this was in AI. And I think the complement is really neat that Hammerspace working together with Infinidat is kind of a forward-looking architecture of what is that businesses need to do in the next 10 years and what are the constraints they have, data locality, no power in London, GDPR, all the things that Eric's been talking about, and accomplishing that and using a modern-looking storage infrastructure that you can integrate your best-of-breed storage, your best-of-breed data policies to accomplish those needs. And ultimately, if you can't save money, then you may not be able to pay for it. So it's not that you're going to go spend more than you did on your legacy for these best-of-breed, but you're actually going to save money. And that maps really well, I think, to Fortune 500 requirements. And as we tie things up, I do want to talk a little bit more about service providers because there's a lot of growth in that space right now. New service providers that are helping customers with their data needs, their IT needs. Eric, I know you guys are in that space helping service providers get offerings up and running, maybe as people are moving, repatriating, or just doing new things with their data. How do you work with service providers and with the Infinidat technology?
Not on the revenue basis, but on customer count, 31% of our customers are actually service providers, whether they be CSPs, MSPs, or MHPs. We work with them and try to help them obviously sell more. For us, from their perspective, it's about 100% availability, very high performance, which we guarantee, and the cyber side. So think about it. We have a customer who is a large cloud provider in the European side, about 6 billion euros, and they're in multiple countries in Europe. In fact, the year before I saw you at the Flash Memory Summit, so the 2022 Flash Memory Summit, we were the best all-flash array for hyperscaler deployments based on a case study with that cloud service provider. And they used us for a couple reasons. A, they need 100% availability because they can't bill if they're not up. B, performance. They were using someone else. They were able to consolidate which allowed them to cut their costs. And obviously, the cloud business, CSPs, MSPs, fiercely competitive, of course. And the small and medium ones have to compete, of course, against the two behemoths, Microsoft and Amazon. So anything they do to cut and manage costs. The autonomous automation for us was very, very important to most of them because they're managing with small staffs. They don't have 42,000 people or whatever Amazon has in the AWS space. They've got 3 guys, a dog, and a note. And that's all they got. And they've got to manage that storage. Then the other thing is, because of the way our storage works, flexibility in function. So as an example, and these are real workloads that CSPs use it for. So obviously, storage as a service. Okay, duh. Backup as a service. Duh. Disaster recovery as a service. Private cloud as a service. So these guys will offer a private cloud environment to small and medium companies, and they use us as the foundation underneath that private cloud deployment capability. So you've got platform as a service, which normally, as well as infrastructure service, usually is storage, servers, and networking together, right? So they go out and either some of them call it platform as a service as what they will market it, and others market as infrastructure as a service. And then a number of applications as a service. We have people using us for email as a service, multiple databases, so Oracle, SQL, NoSQL, Mongo, Cassandra, and we even have a couple who use us with SAP HANA. So that's a number of multitude of workloads, and that's why the cloud providers, between the availability, performance guarantees, and now, if they're doing things like private cloud, how are they going to guarantee cyber resiliency and recovery? Well, guess what? It devolves onto us, but they can say that they include it because if there's an issue, we take care of them. So that's how they can offer things that they don't have to develop on their own, which they would have to do otherwise, right? And they don't have the engineering resources of Microsoft or Google or Amazon. And this is a way, by not having to fool around with the storage infrastructure and the storage technology and having that rock solid foundation, they can go ahead and spend their engineering dollars on something else, which is what they really want to do.
And then I assume it's not too much of a leap to say they can extend your guarantees kind of to those offerings as well. Is that reasonable to say?
Yeah. So we have a guarantee with them, but because of our guarantee with them, several of them have extended the availability guarantee, the performance guarantee. One thing from a performance guarantee is it does allow you to put more workloads on a single physical entity. So they've got an InfiniBox SSA. If they had and in fact, the guys who won the award with us at the Flash Memory Summit 2022, they were using someone else's all-flash array. They couldn't meet the SLAs. They also had a whole bunch of them. And because of the way we do our neural cache technology, even when it's an all-flash array, they were able to shrink the number. So they went from 6 to 1, which saves them money on watts, slots, power, floor space, operational manpower. Plus, they were going to refresh that. So they're going to buy 6 more of them. Instead, they went with 1 of our all-flash. Actually, 2, because they have 1 in their data center for disaster recovery, and another for disaster recovery. But they also were able to put, instead of 40 workloads on each box, they were able to put all of the 240 workloads on our one. So again, that allows them to consolidate customers, how they manage their customers on their side, and still deliver the SLAs that they wanted to deliver, which in this case was high performance databases is what they were offering in that one, and storage as a service. So they had both of those for that specific array that they were using from us with our InfiniBox all flash.
Got it. So Eric, as we're tying up, I wanted to mention a few things. So I know the Infinidat website, I believe it's infinidat.io. Is that correct? Or is it infinidat.com?
Yes, www.infinidat.com. Absolutely.
Okay. It's a wealth of information, and you can find a lot about the use cases, the different workloads Eric's been talking about. Out in the world, are you guys heading off to any trade shows this spring where companies will be bumping into you?
Sure. We will actually be at the coming KubeCon in Europe. We'll be at the KubeCon also in North America. We're actually at some local trade shows. We're doing one, for example, in Dubai, sponsored by IDC. So we do a lot of that stuff. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that we also have a joint solution brief with Hammerspace on our website. So it's a joint solution brief that we did with your technical team. It's out there, how we work together, what we do, how it works at a high level. And then obviously someone who's very interested, we then can get the two teams together and we'll do a sales call and talk to you about the technology, how they work together. But there is something very specific to us in Hammerspace on our website right now.
Okay, perfect. Eric, thank you for taking time to join. I always appreciate the opportunity to spend some time chatting with you and working with you for sure. We'll definitely see you out in the world today and probably back at Flash Memory Summit. But until then, thank you for joining today's podcast. Really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you very much. And again, the partnership with Hammerspace has been very, very beneficial to us from both a customer perspective and our mutual channel partners.
Thanks for listening to Data Unchained, powered by Hammerspace. To learn more, visit hammerspace.com. If you have a guest you would like to hear on the show, email me at molly@hammerspace.com.